It's a pleasure to read poetry with you every week. So, replay folks, especially, if you have something to say in the comments, that'll be great. We love to hear from you. And I will be back and I'll read all the comments and I'll chat with you as if we were live. So please participate fully because I just love keeping poetry going all week. So I have a stack of books that I've picked poems from, and I wanted to share with you too. This book, I've talked about it. This is, it might be backwards, sorry, Chicken Soup for the Soul of America. And this is a book where my essay is in it, right here, called What Is It? And I'm excited because this summer, probably, well, before the end of August, I'll go to all three places. Hi, Shavana. I'll be going to all three places that were a part of the September 11th attack. And so I'll be going to New York, Ground Zero. I'll be going to the soonest one I'll go to is the Pentagon, near the Pentagon. And then I'll also be going to the place near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the plane went down in the field. So, yeah, Catherine, I know you're getting your hair done, you lucky lady. Lucky, lucky lady. So, I just wanted to bring this book out because the more I think about making that video, the more excited I get. So, here's our stack of poetry. I know they're backwards. There's 4 books. We'll read a few from each book. The first one is a poet that, oh, hi, Pam. So glad you're here. The first book we're going to read from is Billy Collins. And the reason and it's not just because there's a bear on the cover. And YouTube thinks that my channel is all about bears. And by the way, if you'd like this video, that would make my day. So Billy Collins is a poet that I suggest to people who aren't big poetry people. I'm like, you don't like poetry much? Well, try Billy Collins. He writes elegantly and right straight to the point. So I'm going to start with his poem called You Reader. Hey, Kay and Ro, good to see you all. Here we go. You reader, you reader. I wonder how you're going to feel when you find out that I wrote this instead of you. That it was I who got up early to sit in the kitchen and mention with a pen the rain soaked windows, the ivy wallpaper, and the goldfish circling in its bowl. Go ahead and turn aside, bite your lip, and tear out the page. But listen, it was just a matter of time before one of us happened to notice the unlit candles and the clock humming on the wall. Plus, nothing happened that morning. A song on the radio, a car whistling along the road outside, and I was only thinking about the shakers of salt and pepper that were standing side by side on a placemat. I wonder if they had become friends over all these years, or if they were still strangers to one another. Like you and I, who managed to be known and unknown to each other at the same time. Me at this table with a bowl of pears, you leaning in a doorway somewhere near some blue hydrangeas, reading this, or in this case, listening to this. One of the things that I saw on my morning walk were a couple mornings ago were unblossomed hydrangeas. Hi, Em. Hydrangeas in process. Kane Road, do you have any hydrangeas in your garden? Because I had never seen a hydrangea that I was aware of. Like I was conscious. Oh, look, it's a hydrangea that hasn't bloomed yet. That's really interesting. I really enjoyed seeing that. So this is Billy Collins. See how smoothly and elegantly that man writes? He's something. During the pandemic, he did daily poetry readings in his house. And and his wife was on the camera and he would get fussy sometimes. He's very professorial. Anyway, this one's called Monday. Monday by our friend Billy Collins. Billy Collins, great for people who don't know poetry and great for people who've read poetry and loved it for years. Here we go. Do I have a poetry book recommendation for a preteen? Is for your son? Um, 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 Pam, do you have any recommendations, poetry books for a preteen? There's a lot of really good children's poetry books. Sometimes I go to the library and I check out children's poetry books because there are so many really good compilations of poetry books for children. And I even suggest adults read them. So what I would do if you go to the library would be just go to the library and look at the Dewey Decimals like 818 or 811, somewhere like that. Or the librarian could point you in the right direction. But I will take that on as an assignment this week, Giovanna. Oh, you don't like how big the hydrangeas get. Do you have peonies? My peonies are all wilted now, unfortunately. Good to see you, Miss M. I always like the hydrangeas because, and I know this isn't your favorite movie, Kay and Roe, but It's a Wonderful Life, because Mary, is hiding in the hydrangea bushes when George's the people come to tell George that his dad is in the hospital. So I just love that. I love that. So here we go. Langston Hughes, yeah. Okay. And there's a lot of poems, especially for children, that are very much, and see, this book, this Billy Collins, is very much like that, as you might have noticed. But there's a lot of children's poetry that is basically describing a scene. There's no mixed hidden meanings, and that's what I love about Billy Collins, and that's why I recommend him to people who don't like poetry, because they don't know that sometimes poetry is just really simply describing things. But I will go to the library where I am, and I will look up the children's poetry section, see what I can find. All right, Monday. The birds are in their trees. The toast is in the toaster, and the poets are at their windows. They are at their windows in every section of the tangerine of earth. The Chinese poets looking up at the moon, the American poets gazing out at the pink and blue ribbons of sunrise. The clerks are at their desks, the miners are down in their mines, and the poets are looking out their windows, maybe with a cigarette, cup of tea, and maybe a flannel shirt or a bathrobe is involved. The proofreaders are playing the ping pong game of proofreading, glancing back and forth from page to page. The chefs are dicing celery and potatoes, and the poets are at their windows because it is their job for which they are paid nothing every Friday afternoon. Which window? It hardly seems to matter, though many have a favorite. I have many favorite windows. Many have a favorite, for there is always something to see. A bird grasping a thin branch, the headlights of a taxi rounding a corner, those two boys in wool caps angling across the street. The fishermen bob in their boats, the linemen climb their round poles, the barbers wait by their mirrors and chairs, and the poets continue to stare at the cracked bird bath or a limb knocked down by the wind. By now, it should go without saying that what the oven is to the baker and the berry stained blouse to the dry cleaner, so is the window to the poet. Just think, before the invention of the window, the poets would have to put on a jacket and a winter hat to go outside, or remain indoors with only the wall to stare at. And when I say a wall, I do not mean a wall with striped wallpaper and a sketch of a cow in a frame. I mean a cold wall of field stones, the wall of a medieval sonnet, the original woman's heart of stone, the stone caught in the throat of her poet lover. So, yeah, there we go. Monday. Monday. Billy, 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 Billy. Okay, what time is it? Okay, we've gone here for 8 minutes. The one thing about Billy, usually I try to use poems that are only a page or less, and Billy's kind of verbose in some of these, so. Mhm. By the way, how are you all doing today? Oh, William Blake. Oh, Songs of Innocence. Thank you. Miss Simpson, she had great reading skills in kindergarten. But as you got older, you could read between the lines. Yeah. I was gonna say, younger children tend to be really literal, and some people are always really literal. Like my son is very literal. Um, so let's see. Oh, here's one that's only a page, and it's called Flock. And then there's a little, and sometimes poems have a little epigraph in the beginning. And this epigraph says, it has been calculated that each copy of the Gutenberg Bible required the skins of 300 sheep. from an article on printing. That's a lot. So Billy Collins writes, I can see them squeezed into the holding pen behind the stone building where the printing press is housed. All of them squirming around to find a little room and looking so much alike, it would be nearly impossible to count them. And there is no telling which one will carry the news that the Lord is a shepherd, one of the few things they already know. It's pretty beautiful. Yeah, it is lunchtime where you are. Pam will come through, Javada, have no fear. That was pretty beautiful. Look at that. So Billy Collins packed quite a wallop in my ears in 4 3-line stanzas. That's pretty impressive. But of course, he was the poet laureate of the United States, and he was a professor, and he's been at this for decades. Okay, so we read Monday morning. Now we're going to read, before we go on to Joy Harjo with An American Sunrise, we're going to go to In the Evening. The heads of roses begin to droop. The bee who has been hauling his gold all day finds a hexagon in which to rest. In the sky, traces of clouds, the last few darting birds, watercolors on the horizon. The white cat sits facing a wall. The horse in the field is asleep on its feet. I light a candle on the wood table. I take another sip of wine. I pick up an onion and a knife. And the past and the future? Nothing but an only child with 2 different masks. Got metaphorical at the end. All right, so that's Billy Collins. The Trouble with Poetry, which I find amusing. Chosen because of the bear on the front, and YouTube thinks I'm a bear channel, so why not give them what they want? Okay, so I'm gonna see. Look, YouTube, it's a bear. It's a bear. I'm testing to see what they'll give me for my short. That's one of the reasons why I do vertical lives, so that I can see what YouTube cooks up, because it always makes me laugh. Okay, so Joy Harjo, An American Sunrise. She's also a former poet laureate. She's also a musician, and she's just an incredible person. Yeah, I loved it too. Excuse me. So Joy Harjo is also a member of the Muskogee Nation. She was the first Native American poet laureate. And what I'd forgotten is that this book has a lot of sad poems in it. But we're going to try to steer clear of too much sadness for today. That one's now I'm going to change that. She also has a beautiful book. It's not here in my library. It's with my daughter, and it's a beautiful illustrated poetry book. There's also to Javada. There's quite a few like book length poems that are really. Oh, there's one really good one. Your son would really like this one. Before I go, if you're still here, I have the. I don't know if I still have it in that room. There is a book length poem that I read, I think last week, that is by Ada Limon, and the poem was taken on a recent space mission. Okay, you're still here. I'll since I don't know where it is, I will find it, and maybe I might post it on my page. I'll tag you wherever I post it. Okay, so we are going to go back to okay. We're going to go back to the dawning, because we've done that with Billy, so now we're going to do that here with our friend Joy. Dawning. Even the birds were still sleeping when I touched ground. I went around the house, opening windows, then the plants, made my tea, wrote until breaking of morning. I went back up the stairs to see if you were waking. Ever so quiet, the smoky light covered the hills, no one making the rounds yet to pick up trash or edge the grass. You were dreaming when I cradled your head. Your mother's loving, tenderly in place, though she's been gone for many years, and you graying, though ever handsome ever handsome in my arms. I tiptoed back to the breaking of light, and I let you sleep, my king, my everything. I love romantic poems. I'm still a hopeful romantic. Still, as all the girls are trying to fix me up with strange men. Not strange men, not unusual men, but that's been really a theme lately. Okay, honoring, also by Joy Harjo. Okay, who sings to the plants that are grown for our plates? Are they gathered lovingly in aprons or arms? Or do they suffer the fate of the motor driven whip of the monster reaper? No song at all. Only the sound of money being stacked in a bank who stitched the seams in my clothes one line after another. Was the room sweaty and dark with no hour to spare? Did she have enough to eat? Did she have a home anywhere? Or did she live on the floor? And where were the children? Or was a seamstress the child with no home of his or her own? Who sacrifices to make clothes for strangers of another country and why? Let's remember to thank the grower of food, the picker, the driver, the sun, and the rain. Let's remember to thank each maker of stitch and layer of pattern, the dyer of color, and the immense house of beauty and pain. Let's honor the maker. Let's honor what's made. And I would say that's an amazing thing to do if you have a practice of saying grace, like at the dinner table, is to actually look at the food in front of you and realize how many people contributed to that meal. And if you give thanks for each person, give thanks to God and give thanks to each person or thanks for each person, it's really humbling. Okay. Does anyone okay, do we know any good poets who writes poetry towards depression and anxiety? Um, I would say good place to go for that, is go to poetryfoundation.com and do a search, depression. In fact, we're going to be reading coming up next is Anne Sexton. I would say both Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath were amazing poets, and wrote a lot of sadness. But yeah, I would say if you want to find current poets, I would say go to Poetry Foundation. I go to Poetry Foundation all the time. If my printer was working, I would do a lot of poetry from there, but I don't have my printer's not working right now, so I'm going with my books. Okay, you ready? Emily Dickinson, actually. This poem is for her, epigraph for Emily Dickinson. A lot of her poems could probably qualify for that as well. So she was pretty sad a lot. Or it's surmised that she was sad. Some of her poems ask really deep questions, lots of metaphor. But yes, I can see that in a lot of her poetry. Hey Pam, if you're around and you have any ideas, I know you're making your late lunch, but okay. A refuge in the smallest of places for Emily Dickinson, one of the singers, and for all who those fleeing on those ancient migration trails north for home. Okay, here we go. I would say also Joy Harjo in this book, An American Sunrise. Oh, that's a great one. Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends. Yes. Thank you, Pam. There's a lot of poems in this book that are about sadness and grief. I just won't be reading them. Usually when I read poetry, I don't like I like to steer away from some of the saddest poems, but yeah, that is a wonderful one. Thanks for remembering that one. I appreciate it, Pam. All right, here we go. A refuge in the smallest of places. Someone sang for me, and no one else could hear it. When I had given up and made knife marks on my arm, depression, I didn't read it ahead enough. I'm going to start again. Someone sang for me, and no one else would hear it when I had given up and made knife marks on my arm, or drank and gave myself away, or was given. Someone sang for me, and no one else could hear it when demons came with ropes and cages to take my children away and imprison us. Someone sang for me, and no one else could hear it. Now I am here in the timeless room of lost poetry, gathering up the destroyed and forgotten because of the songs someone sang that no one else could hear. That was very sad, and I'm sorry that I did not curate that very well. Okay, here's one that is, I would say, melancholy. It's called Falling from the Night Sky. This is also a song. I don't know if you remember in the beginning, if you were here, I said Joy Harjo is a musician. There's a band made up of writers that include, oh shoot, I can't remember, but Stephen King wrote about it, and she's one of the musicians. But I just think that'd be so fun to have a band of all writers. You know that? Well, I would say the book that I'm reading, I'm going to have to put down. It's called Go Gentle by Maria Semple. And there's a part I was just reading along. There was a horrible section. I was warned about it, but I did not know how horrible it would be. And I have to set that book aside. I just can't do it right now. I'm really tender. So, Falling from the Night Sky. I was a star falling from the night sky. I needed you to catch me. I was a rainbow lifting from a dark cloud. I needed you to see me. You keep your eyes to the ground, walk that line she had to you. That path of patient expectation keeps you true to your undoing. My heart wore flowers and a red dress. The first time we kissed, you smelled of happiness and moonlight. We drove the night to tenderness. When you're here, we are the sun and the moon in the land where promises came true. When you're here, we share imagination, no explanations. It's just me and you. You keep your eyes to the ground, walk that line she had to you. That path of patient expectation keeps you true to her undoing. I am a star falling from the night sky. I need you to catch me. I am a rainbow lifting from a dark cloud. I need you to see me. Okay, I really like that one too. I really love Joy Harjo. I recommend her a lot also. But the one poem it's an illustrated book, it's beautiful. I really related to that one too. It was about missing her mom. Yeah, I need you to see me. Exactly. Okay, so here we go. This poem is also by my friend Joy, and it's called Rising and Falling. By the way, if you haven't liked this video, it would really make my day if you would. Human poetry is a restless soul and does not always know what it holds. When it is regaling beloved guests at a table graced with food and drink, what songs of tempestuous rising and falling, one country after another. Okay. I was going to read that one, but I think it's too much. Okay. So we're going to go to Anne Sexton. Anne Sexton was one of the first, we talked about confessional poetry not long ago. And she was one of the first big names in the confessional poetry movement in the 50s. I believe it was in the 50s. She was yeah, her first book was in 1960. Let's see. Um, yes, let's see. Yeah, she began to write poetry in 1956, and she got very famous very quickly. And she won lots of prizes, and she met an unhappy ending, unfortunately. So she has a poem called Just Once. Just once, I knew what life was for. In Boston, quite suddenly I understood. Walked there along the Charles River, watched the lights copying themselves, all neoned and strobe hearted, opening their mouths as wide as opera singers, counted the stars, my little campaigners, my scar daisies, and knew that I walked my love on the night green side of it and cried my heart to the eastbound cars and cried my heart to the westbound cars and took my truth across a small humped bridge and hurried my truth, the charm of it home, and hoarded these constraints into morning, only to find them gone. She was troubled. She had two children. She has two children. Her daughter um, was the one who kind of shepherded her poetry. Shepherded is not the right word, but she was the one who was in charge of publishing her work after she was gone. Okay. And we are going to read the poem called I Remember, because I Remember is one of my favorite of all writing prompts. I Remember by Anne Sexton. I remember. By the 1st of August, the invisible beetles began to snore, and the grass was as tough as hemp and was no color. No more than the sand was a color, and we had worn our bare feet bare since the 20th of June, and there were times we forgot to wind up your alarm clock, and some nights we took our gin, warm and neat, from old jelly glasses while the sun blew out of sight like a red picture hat. And one day I tied my hair back with a ribbon, and you said that I looked almost like a Puritan lady. And what I remember best is that the door to your room was the door next to mine. Oh, childhood memories. Childhood memories. And we have a theme. We have a theme this week. It's morning. Okay. A bit like Sylvia Plath. Yes, she's a bit like Sylvia Plath. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The only thing with Sylvia Plath is Ted Hughes was the whatever that word is for her poetry, and that really makes me upset because she and Ted were not, you know the story. The Executor, is it called The Executor of her poetry? But yes, I love Sylvia Plath. I love Anne Sexton. Sylvia Plath went to Smith College like my daughter did, and I was known to hang out in the archives during my visits, and I actually saw some of Sylvia Plath's work, and like her handwriting in pencil. They used a lot of pencil when she was there, just little pencil scribbles. And also the pencil scribbles of Anne Morrow Lindbergh, another favorite of mine. You love Romeo and Juliet, M? One of my favorite stories of working in high school was one of the English teachers that I was working in the classroom one day, and she knew I was an actor. And she said, oh, she was annoyed with the kids. And she went, oh, could you read this? And it was out of Romeo and Juliet. I think it might have been Juliet or Juliet's mom, or I'm not sure who it was. But I was reading with a student, totally cold reading Shakespeare. It was one of those moments in time that anyway, so I started reading. And I've done Shakespeare, so I can read Shakespeare. And it was one time in that classroom that it was as quiet was that day. The students were totally engaged. I think just because I was so like pumped up about acting in the classroom. That was so fun. Okay. Yeah, it was so fun. And there was a student who was reading with me. And I remember him looking like and just looking around the room because I was, of course, I'm reading, but I'm looking up because I'm in the, I'm acting. And it was just interesting to feel the kids just totally, and just the sound, the quietness of the room, because usually they weren't quiet. And the other thing is they didn't know me very well. So when I showed up and did that, all of a sudden I was much more respected. So we're going to read our last poem of today is by Amanda Gorman. She's also a good one. I think if are you familiar with her, Miss M? She was the Youth Poet Laureate. She's written an inaugural poem. She's amazing. I love her. And this poem is called The Miracle of Morning. I need a sip. It's very warm today. Here we go. A lot of these poems that she wrote in this one were written during the pandemic, and you can kind of tell. The Miracle of Morning. And the first sentence, she says morning, but there's a U in it. So morning of grieving. We thought we'd awaken to a world of mourning, heavy clouds crowding, a society storming, but there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. We see a dad with a stroller taking a jog. Across the street, a bright eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on a porch fingers her rosaries. She grins as a young neighbor brings her groceries. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we can weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend. Like light, we can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees, with families, libraries, waiters, school, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in lack thereof. For it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity and suffering. We must find solidarity. For it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever lose it. So ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain. Give it purpose. Use it. Read children's books, dance alone to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From these waves of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let each morning find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing in testing times who became the best of beings. You haven't heard of Amanda Gorman? Well, there you go. I don't know if you can read it. It's backwards. This is call us what we carry. Excellent book, excellent poet. She also has a master class in the master class. If you've heard of master class, she has a poetry class in there. Okay, both of your poems you submitted to the anthology were rejected. It's hard. Keep submitting. Keep submitting. Okay. And M says, my first poetry book I read was William Shakespeare. I had to look up half the words to know what they meant and had to ask my mom how to pronounce some of the words. And Javada says, Life with Javada says, those are all great books. They are great books. I think Amanda Gorman also has a children's book because she was the young poet laureate. So, and Shakespeare is very challenging. I think Shakespeare is easier having someone read it and kind of act it out a little bit, like I was doing that day in class. What I found out after that day is that the students got much, it's interesting, the students got much more into Shakespeare when they actually heard somebody excited about reading it. So, all right. Oh, they tell your poetry is too dark? Not necessarily, Miss M, because a lot of people go to poetry when they are dark at dark times. I know that's what when I was first writing poetry, that's mostly what I read. But now I write poetry about anything and everything. Kind of taking the Billy Collins approach. How did I get interested in poetry, Giovanna? Um, I started writing poetry. I got to poetry through songwriting. I learned how to play guitar when I was in seventh grade, and I would write songs. And I started writing songs when I was 8 or 9, and then songs became poetry, and they became more songs. And then when I was in college, I started writing poetry a lot, and I've never stopped writing poetry. I often call writing my anchor art, and I call it that because I've never let my writing go. I'm an actor, and I acted till I was 11 years old, and then took a 30-year break. So I love acting, but writing is the one that I always like every day I'm writing. Um, and I might as well mention it. I should have mentioned at the beginning that we're going to be doing journaling, a 5-day journaling experience here on YouTube. And what that will be is we will be getting, oh my goodness, there's the most beautiful bird. Hi. It's like looking at me. But we'll be writing, I'll give prompts and I'll give a little bit of instruction, kind of. We're just talking about writing and writing strategies. And then I'll give prompts and we'll write in 5-minute chunks. And we'll write free flow writing, which means you write stream of consciousness, you write whatever pops up. And what tends to happen is that the people who are participate in these events with me find they just have amazing ahas. And I think part of that is that we're a bunch of people writing together at the same time. Oh, okay. I do. I'm a haiku artist. In fact, the my book that's coming out in October is haiku. I was inspired about my time writing haiku every day for 377 days. Hello, CL. And then the book that I'm working on now that's kind of making me a bit insane. I say insane just because I've been frustrated with the structure of the book. Um, I need to make a follow-up video about that. But lately I've been obsessed with, it's gonna sound weird because writers can get obsessed with different things. Right now I'm obsessed with fungus, because the disease that I have that is caught was caused by a fungus. And it's that fungus that caused me to start hugging trees and start writing haiku. And so I'm obsessed. And the most helpful fungus for most trees, not all, is called, um, let's see if I can get it right. Mycorrhizal fungus. Mycorrhizal. I'll have to look it up, but I wrote about that a lot today. But it's really interesting when it's because as I was writing the book and thinking about themes, I was thinking about how the trees are such a community, and the fungus is how they communicate, a lot of it. Or, I mean, not communicate like we humans do, probably, but they help get the nutrients through from one root system to another. It is fascinating. So the fungus that I have in my body, the spores that came into my body, um, their big purpose in life, this is so gross. Their big purpose in life is decomposing dead things in the desert, like underground. So I give a squirrel burrow or a rat burrow or whatever lives underground. If they die in the tunnels, this particular kind of fungus goes in and helps them decompose faster. And it gets in the soil. And scientists are trying to discover what it is about this very aggressive fungus that causes disease in humans and pets, animals, dogs, etc. So inspiration can come from anywhere. Exactly. And this is, I don't know if you were here when I showed this book, Miss M, but this is a book, Chicken Soup for the Soul of America. And I have an essay in this one. Um, and so I'm going to be making a video from this. I'm going to read the essay. It's still relevant today. I'm thinking of writing up another essay to as a follow up because it's 25 years. But I'm going to all three places in the U.S. that were impacted: the Pentagon, Ground Zero in New York City, and also in Pennsylvania where the plane went down. So I went to the plane. That I went to that place, the National Monument, and was so moved I couldn't. And I was by myself. I was not prepared at how moved I got. So I decided then that I was going to go back and make a video. But I didn't have the book with me when I was in Pittsburgh. I think it's because I'm glad that I didn't go then because I really wanted to have a vision. And at that point, I did not have a vision. Now I do. Okay, I've gone over my time, but I'm really grateful for everyone who's here. Yes, I was going to say that it was on the New York Times bestseller list. This one, um, the first week it came out. So thank you so much for being here, everybody. I appreciate your time. I hope you'll come back next Thursday, where we'll read more fabulous poetry. It's always good to see all of you. Pam, thanks for being my wing person and sharing poetry recommendations. I appreciate that. Bye, everybody. Bye.